So this is the April 8th meeting of the Sustainability Subcommittee on Waste Reduction. And this is Patrick Tallarico from the City of Palm Springs. We also have Tracy Sheldon here from the City of Palm Springs. And we'll do just a little roll call of our commission members. We have Roy Clark, and we have Lonnie Miller. There you are. Aye. And we have Chris Cunningham and Liz Hernandez from Palm Springs Disposal Services. And we have Haley Preston on board as well. She's going to be one of our presenters for our first topic. And did I lose her? She slipped to another screen.
Yes, Haley just texted me. She lost her Wi-Fi, so stay tuned.
Okay. All right, so Haley will rejoin us. I'll keep an eye out for her here. But why don't we go ahead and do introductions for other folks that are on the phone, and tell us if you are here tuning in for the compost topic. So Dee?
Yes, I'm here, and Haley will be here in a second.
Okay, all right. And Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'm Elizabeth. I'm with Community Composting for Green Spaces. I'm with a project that's funded by CalRecycle.
Great. And Janet?
I'm Janet Cook. I'm here also doing the presentation with Dee and Haley.
Great. Okay. And Elizabeth, I think you were out at the meeting that we had out at Demuth, right?
The site visit that we did?
Yeah, the site visit. Yeah. And was it Janet that was there too? No.
No, Eleanor came out with me.
Okay. All right. I figured it's hard to recognize people because they were all masked up. So.
Yeah. I also had more hair then too.
All right. Okay. Okay. So let me just do a real quick overview of the agenda. We wanted to hear the presentation from Haley on and others on the composting effort that they've been kind of organizing, and basically getting a lot of input and interest from the community members about community-based composting. And then we'll go on to our other agenda items, including some discussion of signage and some work that's been going on in some of the parks regarding trash and recycling containers. So we've got a little bit on that as well. And of course, talk about 1383, our favorite subject. So, all right.
Great.
All right, so you guys let me know when you are ready to go, or if we should go on to another topic first.
I know. Haley said, let you know I'll be on in a second. If she cannot, I think Janet and I could do it without her. I'm running the slideshow portion. So if you could just give her a few minutes, I think she'd be really grateful.
I think she's here.
Oh, good.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know how to use this format. Hold on, sorry.
There she is.
Hi. Oh my goodness. I'm on my husband's phone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Goodness.
So thank you. That has never happened to me before. So, all right, we got that out of the way.
Excellent. All right, so I've got your presentation. I included it with the materials that we sent out to everybody. So let me just pull that up if I can find where I put that. I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going to go over to this. All right. So
Okay.
I think we're good to go.
And so will my teammates be able to change the slides as we go? Do they have the access to that?
You know, I don't. Let's see if I can give somebody access.
If not, we'll just let you know when to change the slides if you're all
Okay.
right with that.
All right. Yeah, so let's just do that.
Okay,
Just give me the signal.
sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. You let me know when you're ready.
All right,
us.
so let me
cannot
just give.
see any of you now.
Yeah, let me just give folks a little more context. So I met with Haley and Elizabeth and Eleanor about the potential for a grant related to community composting that Haley initiated and that the city would be a partner in, much like we are a partner in the community garden. So providing, doing like a public-private partnership where we would provide space and some resources, and then it would really be largely a community-run program. And so Haley had some discussions with folks both here and elsewhere to get their input on their levels of interest and also to get ideas for what this might look like. And so we invited her here to talk a little bit to us about kind of what she's heard and community composting in general. So we were all talking about the same thing. So Haley, I will turn it over to you and your folks.
Thanks, Patrick. My name's Haley Preston, and I'm an organizer of the Desert Community Compost Coalition and also a UC Riverside Master Gardener alumni. And I've got my teammates with us, or with me.
I'm Dee Kongsley.
I'm Janet Cook.
And we've got Elizabeth Jones here too.
Sorry, I missed the cue. We did our introductions, but yes,
Right.
I'm here as well, Elizabeth. Hi.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. All right. Well, thanks for giving us your time today. I wanted to share with you our case for community post. And last week, my neighbor dumped 2 full buckets of fish poop in my backyard. And your pro bags of shredded newspaper and grass clippings over the fence into her yard. So happy. Well, because I was active Master Gardener alumni and community members and also backyard composting enthusiasts, we understand that composting is an excellent way to create healthy soil and reduce landfill waste and help fight climate change. We also understand that composting involves a delicate chemistry and a balance, and the right combination of ingredients and maintenance can transform these organic byproducts into the next generation of nutrients that nourish us. So collecting compost and maintaining that balance of compost takes expertise and commitment. And it's going to take a village for the Coachella Valley to compost in compliance with Bill 1383. So slide 1, please. That's why we're here today. So Bill 1383, as you know, puts a fine point on what we've known for a long time. And one, that's that our environment is being impacted by methane and carbon emissions and global warming. And changing how we dispose of our waste is one of the top ways we can reduce and sequester those emissions. Number 2, we've lost upwards of 60% of the world's topsoil. Composting our food waste ensures that we can restore the health of our soils, protect our watersheds by reducing the need for chemical fertilizers, and help support a thriving and sustainable agricultural system. 3, uniting communities around collaborative efforts for the purpose of sustainability can really be a powerful means for social change. So when I was young, resources were tight, and my family always had a garden to make sure that we could have fresh food on our table. Our food scraps were taken out at the end of the day to our backyard compost pile. And at the time, I didn't understand why we did that. I just knew that's what you do with your food waste. So when I saw the call to apply for a community composting grant from CalRecycle, I recognized the opportunity. And in the few short weeks since receiving the grant, we have gathered a Desert Community Compost Coalition of 30 members strong and growing. And most of our participants begin as I did, with a simple idea about the understanding of composting as a gardening basic. Considering the massive upside, preserving our environment, and the ability to grow our food for our children's children, compost is a simple, straightforward, and powerful way to share our resources. It's also an impactful step toward shifting how we deal with our waste. Slide 2, please. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're all familiar with the NIMBY approach, right? Not in my backyard. Every year, US landfills and incinerators receive 80 billion tons of garbage. Californians deposited 39 million tons of waste into landfills in 2018, and approximately 1/3 of that waste, that means over 10 million tons, was compostable organic material. Slide 3, please. Janet, you're up.
Okay, so let's see. Compostable waste builds up in the landfills, and it doesn't break down properly. So it doesn't decompose in the low light, low oxygen conditions of the landfill because it needs air and balanced chemistry to do so. So in turn, it just kind of sits there and releases methane gas. We also know from our research that 1/3 of greenhouse emissions globally come from agriculture, and 30% or 1.8 billion tons of food we produce is wasted. And if food waste was our country, it would be the 3rd highest emitter of greenhouse gases after the US and China. And throwing away 6 pounds of food equals 50 pounds of carbon dioxide being emitted into the atmosphere. Additionally, when the nutrients from compostable waste go to landfills, we lose our most valuable chemical allies in combating climate change because those nutrients are separated from us forever. Forever.
So those nutrients are critical to healthy soils and agriculture. By managing our compostables closer to home with methods and spaces designed specifically for making good quality compost, we can keep those precious nutrients close to our food system and make compost available as a product for everyone to use. Community composting supports landfill management by extending the lifespan of those facilities without the costly social and environmental impacts of continually building new ones. At this point, it's probably important to define exactly what we mean by compost. Compost is really different than a mulch or the stuff we put into our green bins. It's actually a balance of nutrients that are made up of green waste, brown waste, and food waste. And the chemical composition of compost controls soil erosion and improves soil health and creates major environmental benefits. Slide 5, please.
Over the last 40 years, we've lost 1/3 of the Earth's farmable land to erosion and pollution. So anyone that's spent more than a weekend in the Coachella Valley knows how fast the wind can take our topsoil away. And composting helps. According to studies, applying compost can reduce the topsoil loss by over 86%. And managing our soil is really managing our survival out here. The relative sustainability of societies throughout history can be attributed to how they treated their soils. And here in the desert, our environment constantly reminds us that we live in a balance with the temperature, humidity, wind, and quality of the soil which we grow. So the soil really is a living network. It's like a huge city. And there are billions of microorganisms that engage in diverse ecological relationships with each other. And the compost produces antimicrobial compounds and metabolites that help plants grow better and faster. And really using food waste can boost bacteria that increases crop growth and can make plants more resistant to pathogens. So the rich organic matter in the compost creates healthy soil, nutritious plants, and higher yields of agricultural crops. The soil feeds on carbon, just like plants feed on carbon. And compost can use the carbon that would normally be lost in the landfills, and it helps restore our soil for future generations. The compost actually sequesters carbon from the atmosphere, and we can capture carbon and restore it to our soil through composting. But wait, there's more. More, you say? No, there can't be, but yes, there is. Compost helps with water conservation. Water loves compost. The living organisms in the compost produce a sticky glue-like substance, which helps retain water in the soil. So the water content in the soil means less soil crusting, which is really a hard barrier that limits the growth of little seedlings. And so adding compost helps save water by increasing the water absorption, which reduces the runoff and evaporation. So only a 5% increase in organic material quadruples the soil's water holding capacity, and it really helps reduce the periods of water stress during drought because it's still holding on to the water. And then the studies also show that soil amended with compost requires less irrigation. We all love that. And we know how important that is in the desert. And it also, lastly, can protect us from the chemicals present in our environment. Because when we close the food loop and recycle the waste back into the soil, we don't need as much chemical fertilizers, which are really just going to deplete the soil in the long run. And chemical fertilizers also produce gases like nitrous oxide, which is another really potent greenhouse gas. It's like 265 times more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. And after our first 100-degree weekend in April, I think we can all agree that we're good on the heat. And the chemical fertilizers also wash into the waterways, and they can kill or displace fish, produce toxins that contaminate the water and make humans and animals sick. So really, the act of composting our food waste is a way we can all contribute to conserving water, restoring our soil, and reducing harmful chemical use. And now Dee's going to share how we can do this on more of a community scale.
Hi. Well, yes. That's the right slide. Thank you. Well, not everyone has the garden space, time, or maybe even the knowledge to compost. And I cannot throw my food waste into my neighbor's backyard because I live in a condo. So composting is something I'm very much interested in. I see how much food waste I'm throwing out every day, and it really makes me feel guilty. Community composting is a solution for people like me who cannot compost at home. Next, this is it, correct, thank you. Did you know that next slide. Did you know that just 3 people can process 1,000 pounds of food per week with only 1 hour of work per week? This means we can get pretty fast results with not much effort. Community composting, it breaks us out of the cycle of pretending our food waste is being taken care of. It instills personal responsibility. We will take care of it. Next slide. We will take care of it becomes you and I taking care of our own food scraps right in our own community. Community compost is growing. Sites may vary in size, structure, and methods, but all are designed to be community managed spaces with local control to serve those to serve the needs of those it serves. And as you know, the law targets a 75% reduction in landfill waste by 2025. And this goal means the diversion of up to 27 million tons of organic waste. Using our food waste is just one of the easiest ways that we can meet this target and promote sustainable landscapes. Next slide, please. So who benefits? Virtually everyone benefits. Our earth, our community, our own personal health. It gives opportunities for all citizens to take part and make a difference. It diverts waste from our disposal system. It creates a closed loop food system, which encourages local food production and food security. It promotes a healthy environment. Our valuable food scraps are put back to use growing food and creating our own nutrient-rich soil. It educates and engages the community members of all ages. A compost site can actually become a training site and demonstration site. Residents learn the importance of composting and hopefully incorporate it into their daily lives. It becomes something, hopefully it becomes a norm, not just something that gardeners do. A community compost program provides an opportunity to unite local businesses, schools, and individuals toward a common community goal. And as awareness grows, then hopefully it's more likely to be passed on. There are many financial benefits as well. There's less need for commercial composting sites. Dollars are saved by reducing the miles that food must travel. It creates local jobs. Composting actually generates twice as many jobs as landfills on a per ton basis, according to an LA Compost case study. Grants can provide job creation support and encourage the startup of new green businesses in a community and encourage low impact development. A community-made compost is the gift to the community. It's locally available. It can be used by households, farms, schools, and other community spaces. Next slide, please. So here's an example. Community scale operations are already working and making positive impacts in many neighborhoods. I found LA Composting and Food to Soil in San Diego, great examples. They're going strong. In 2020, Food to Soil reported that 74 tons of food scraps created nearly 2,000 cubic feet of compost. They generated $43,000 in local income. And in 1 year, they sequestered as much carbon as 61 acres of forest would do. LA composting diverted nearly 500,000 pounds of waste in 2019 and 739,000 pounds in 2020. Community sites can actually become a reality in a rather short amount of time. And our coalition is ready to team up with community partners to build healthy soil, grow healthy food, and live in a healthy environment. It just starts with us, people like us, individuals, families, citizen groups, and organizations who know the impact and work together to support a vision. Next slide. And I think we lost Haley again, so I will. Are you here, Haley?
If you can hear me, I'll close.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take
Great.
over if you leave.
Okay. Thanks, Dee. So in closing, this is a moment for leadership. Our community is a model in so many ways. Our architecture, our wind farms, our food, art, and our inclusive culture draw people here from all over the world. And if Palm Springs does it, it's chic by definition. So we could be part of that global effort to increase composting and be part of the reduction in emissions by 2.1 billion tons by 2050. I'm inventing years. I was going to show you my compost container under my kitchen sink and my compost container in my backyard, but I'm curious, where will you put yours? Because our coalition isn't here to compete with the waste industry. There's certainly plenty of food waste to go around, but we want to meet the needs of those who want a choice about how their food waste is processed and more control over their food systems from beginning to end. So we need partnerships and support. And our intention today was to share the case for community compost and to begin conversations with you that will lead to a true community effort. So we look forward to your questions and your comments, and thank you very much.
Great. There we go. Any questions from our commission members? And let me stop sharing my screen. Yeah, Lonnie.
Well, I have about a million questions, and I'll probably be one of your students coming along here. But the big question that I have is, what are you going to do in the desert for composting? Because there's no vermiculture here. And if that's how you were composting before, then what does composting look like in the desert? I have some experience in it, and that's where this is coming from.
Sure. Elizabeth, you've got the soil science background. Can I get you to respond, please?
Yeah, so our plan for, the folks in community composting for green spaces ended up getting applications from over 30 different sites. So we're working with sites all over the Inland Empire and the high desert. And our plans are to do hot compost piles in each area. And those are able to hold the moisture needed in order to make the composting happen, the decomposition happen.
Could you go into a little bit more detail on that? What is a hot compost pile? How do you?
Yeah. So we typically will find a source of wood chips from like local tree trimmers, a source of manure or stable bedding, and then get our food waste sources. And it's basically just layering those different things in the pile in such a way that there's enough aeration and enough carbon to get it to heat up. And adding that manure for inoculation helps with that process as well.
What temperatures are we talking about?
Between 140 and 160.
140 and 160?
Yeah, pretty quickly. You layer it, you add the moisture, and then it heats up. And that also helps keep pests away from the piles because they don't want to go into something that's that hot.
Yeah. Very interesting. Is anyone doing that in the desert here now, presently? Do you know?
I'm not well connected with gardens out there. I was selling produce for a farm that's out more in Temecula area and like, yeah, Palm Desert. And they were an organic farm, so they were using compost. I'm not sure exactly what system they had, but I know they were using hot compost at different points in production.
It's called hot compost?
Mhm.
Okay. Great. Well, yeah, I'll be interested in hearing what the PSDS group says about our composting arrangement between the city garbage disposal and what we have set up now. It's pretty new, pretty premature, but I don't know if it even involves the hot composting at all. If you didn't do hot composting, what would you do? Is that pretty much, I mean, you need something like that for it to break down, right?
I think that's ideal for like the primary concerns, which are like pathogens and pests in the piles. And that pretty much takes care of it. You're also able to get more microbial life, like more diversity of microbial life, which improves the soil health and the ability of the plants to actually like uptake the right balance of nutrients, so that that's in your food too.
Okay.
So
Very interesting.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
Haley to maybe just talk a little bit about where this goes from here. I think, you know, there's certainly, we could spend lots of time on this, but I wanted to just kind of give people a sense of kind of where we are and what are the next steps.
So thanks, Patrick. We're in the visioning process and the location hunt. And so we've got this coalition that keeps building. I mean, every day I'm getting a new email or a new introduction, a new call. And so we've got the community support. We also have the infrastructure from Master Gardeners and their whole array of volunteers. And so I think, you know, at least in the conversations, Patrick, that you and I have had, it's about finding the right place and having it done right and well, so that it's a place where people want to gather and education can be done. Because I think, was it Miss Miller? I didn't catch your name because I'm on this teeny little screen. Yeah, so
me, you know.
Lonnie. So Lonnie, your questions were so important because yeah, it's like, what are we going to do in the desert when worms can't survive in a pile? Which doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have really good quality compost, but it's just a different process. Yeah. So what we're talking about is finding a location that is accessible for people to either have their compost picked up and dropped off, or they can bring it to the compost site. And we want to be able to have the site structured in such a way that the people who are turning the piles and connected to making it go are also getting to use the compost that comes out of it. We want to make it available and accessible locally so that it doesn't have to be shipped out on trucks somewhere, and could be right, you know, in the center of town where we can learn about food systems. How does that sound, Patrick? Is that what you were asking about?
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and I think you hit the right point. I think that we want to kind of try to figure out where this might go and where it might work, and how it works. So do it to a scale that is manageable, and we can figure out what works, what doesn't, how much it's used, et cetera, et cetera. And so anyway, so that's our next kind of area of focus, is to really zero in on what can be done and where. So so that's really what we're thinking. And the grant will help us out a little bit in terms of any materials and infrastructure that we might need to set something up. And then it's the volunteers, really. Like Haley was saying, there seems to be a fair amount of support and interest in this. And I get calls every week about this, about where people can bring their compost. So anyway, so that is, so that's really what we're trying to work towards next.
And the grant also offers us a wealth of educational opportunities as well. I mean, they're stewarding us as volunteers to, I mean, I'm a newbie. Like I know how to backyard compost, I can do that, but I don't know how to do this on a community scale. And so we don't have to be experts to make this something successful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We have the support of people that have been writing the grants and teaching people. And we as volunteers actually go through a training through the grant association. So.
Okay, great. Great, Roy.
Is the plan to still set up a composting operation at the community garden in Duluth Park?
So that is the initial place that we met and that we talked about. Two things are happening there that make that maybe a little bit more challenging. One is that they are actually, and I don't think I told you this, Haley, is that they are actually putting a fence up before that. I think it's right after the dumpster that we were kind of meeting by. So all of the area would now be fenced off and really kind of designated for recreation storage. So I don't know if that's even going to be possible, that location. But Haley has been talking to folks up on the north end, maybe at James O. Jesse, to maybe provide a location up there that might be conducive. So that's something that Haley's, again, she's exploring with some community members and that kind of thing. So I don't know if it can happen and there are other places at Duluth that we could potentially do it, but it doesn't sound like the garden area would be the best spot for it. And again, if we wanted to expand it, it might have some limitations in terms of expansion. So.
Thank you.
Yep. So. All right, well, that's kind of all the time we have for today, but we are certainly going to keep up to speed on this. And, you know, we have meetings every month. So as things change or as things develop, we'll certainly share them with the group and get your feedback as we go forward. So, and we'll continue to share, Haley, your meetings with your group, with this group. So if anybody wants to participate, they can do that too.
Great, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
For your time.
Thank you.
I
Lovely
really
presentation,
appreciate
by
it.
the way. Lovely.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. So, all right. Let's go ahead and continue on with our agenda. And let me go back here. All right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was just a few updates. So the park trash can and recycling container effort, and I don't know where Rob is. So I wanted to show you a couple of things. Share my screen again. Share my screen. Okay, so Tracy and I went out to Ruth Hardy Park, which is where Rob and I did a little assessment of the trash containers there. And we have been kind of hammering home this idea of gray bins for trash and blue for recycling and things like that with our maintenance folks. And so they did a little painting experiment up near it's near the bathrooms up on the north end of the Ruth Hardy Park there. And so they went ahead and painted some of the trash containers that are up in that area. And I just wanted to show you some examples of that. So they chose a kind of a medium color gray. And they, you know, these are the ones that have the little white stripe the stripe that's built into the container. And so they painted the stripe white. And then you can see how they look next to our little recycling bins that are up there as well. And so, and you can't really tell, but the lids are actually a darker color. I think they were a black or a darker gray. So anyway, but we could work with that and maybe do something a little more with those container lids. But there are some that don't have lids at all. So anyway, so I wanted to show you that. And in particular, I wanted Rob to see that and see what he thought of those colors. Because one of the things that we did when we did our inventory of the trash cans up there is try to identify those containers that needed to be painted, those that needed to be replaced, et cetera. But this middle picture gives you a good example of what we would end up with kind of across the park because we got several of these recycling containers paired with some of the concrete, either rectangular containers or round containers. So that's what they may end up looking like if they get painted. So, so anyway, so that's that's what I have to say about that. And so I'll connect back with Rob and chat with him a little bit about it and see if he has additional thoughts. The other thought that we had is with regard to the opening is doing a little research to see if we can get a fabricator to make a square opening as opposed to a round opening so that we can further distinguish it from the recycling containers. So, and we could stencil trash, the word trash on here if we wanted to do that, that kind of thing. So there are some options.
Patrick,
Yep, Rob, or Roy.
the ultimate goal though is to place the containers appropriately throughout the park. Is the map that's been developed, and so that's really what the final step will be.
Yep. Yeah, so in addition to inventorying kind of what was there, we also identified locations that needed to be changed or repaired or something like that. So we got a whole list of things that need to be done, but I was really happy to see that they've already kind of gone forward with some painting to do it as an experiment, and it looks really good to me. And so anyway, so hopefully they can just do more of that. So, all right. Okay. All right, so I'll follow up with Rob on that front, and we'll move that forward hopefully next month. I also wanted to let's see. So I wanted to mention the neighborhood challenge and get your feedback a little bit. So this group is really the group where we've been talking about the neighborhood challenge. As you may recall, we tried to launch this last Earth Day and get the neighborhoods involved in trying to do some activities between last Earth Day and this Earth Day. And of course, COVID just put a complete damper on all of that. And so we did have 2 communities that did something. So one neighborhood organization did a tree dedication. They're doing a tree planting and dedication to Nat Reed, who passed away last year. And that's going to be in Victoria Park. So that was one of the things that people could do, was plant a tree. And then another group that was, and Chris, I can never remember the name of it. Is it Gene Autry neighborhood or something Sunrise? Can't remember.
Yeah, Sunrise Villas.
Sunrise Villas.
That's
So,
right.
they were working on developing some a new recycling practice for their community. So they were working with us to identify what goes in, what shouldn't go in, and then actually work on the hard part for them, which is actually the process, because they had entered into this agreement with their landscaper to collect up their recyclables in plastic bags and throw them in the recycling bin. And so we don't want them to do that anymore. So they were working through some different ways that they might kind of work around that and get rid of those plastic bags.
How's that going?
So I don't know, I haven't heard from them lately. So, but we did work with them on their communication materials. So they did at least go that far, and they started to spread the word about what goes in and what should stay out. And I think they were going to work with their landscaper. So I'm going to circle back with them and just see how that's going, to see how, if anything's changed on that front. But anyway, so I wanted to at least recognize those 2 communities.
Yes.
And what I was going to do is I was going to make a last call, sort of a last call at the next meeting, Roy, to just say, if anybody else has done anything, just let us know so that we're aware of it. And then I was going to announce it at the April 22nd City Council meeting, which just happens to be Earth Day. So, so anyway, so that was my plan on that. And I just thought recognizing both of them would be a fine thing to do. So, so that's my plan. And then the other piece of that that's sort of related is one of the activities that we had identified was a sprinkler check week. And we had hoped that neighborhoods would kind of get together and kind of work together to check sprinklers and, that kind of thing, and let people know that a sprinklers are broken or something like that. But what we're going to do for that is actually have a citywide sprinkler check week at the end of April. Lonnie.
Is this with DWA or?
Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, this is an idea that we sort of came up with, and then we're going to work with them to advertise it, and we're going to try to go ahead and do it the end of this month. And what we're going to do is send out a bunch of social media posts, send up stuff out through 1PS, and maybe even do some physical little signs in neighborhoods, just so that people can see the message as they drive around. And we're going to do a little video announcement that'll play at the beginning of movies that week at the cultural center. So everybody that goes to the movies will have to sit through the 1 minute kind of overview of Sprinkler Check Week. So so we're going to do that, and we are also, the last part of that is we're going to have an irrigation specialist. So they that works at an irrigation supply company. He's going to be available on the April 24th at the farmers market. And so he's going to be available to answer questions or show people new and water efficient sprinkler heads and that kind of thing. So, so anyway, so we're going to work on pulling ourselves together for that. So, yeah. And so then, and it sort of is maybe indicative of what I maybe would like to do with that neighborhood challenge idea, is to organize events that we had listed there and just make it a citywide thing and just advertise it maybe one a month or one every couple of months or something like that to just get people engaged. So anyway. All right, that's all I have on that. Okay. Mandatory organics and recycling ordinance. The fine portion of the organics and recycling ordinance that passed last fall into the follow-up. So we're passing the fine amounts tonight at the city council meeting. So I don't expect that'll be any problem. So then that ordinance is fully enforceable, and we can go forward and start to talk to people about, give them their 60-day notice before we start finding them. Downtown trash enclosure, I got no update on that. I don't know if Chris or Liz, you got any activity on that front?
Only that they're getting much busier.
Yes.
There's a lot going on over there. I still think it's only the what is it, the Thai house over there? The
Yep.
Thai house that's doing the food waste recycling. But been kind of a mess lately.
Okay, well, they're going to be first on my list because we've been talking to them forever. So
That's all right.
and they have space.
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. All right, and we talked about the composting grant with Haley. It's my understanding that that grant is about $2,500 and that they will receive it. So, so we should get that money. So they should get that money.
Are we supporting the grant as well, or?
So we are like a partner in the grant. So they made the application, and we agreed to partner with them on mostly on space. So again, just like kind of like we do with the community garden, is we said that we'd partner with them on some space and give it a try and see how it worked. So yeah, but you know, the infrastructure, like if we needed to pour a concrete pad and all that kind of stuff, that would probably come out of the grant funding. So all right, other things, yes.
That project, to me, really lends itself to a pilot project. And,
Yep.
you know, you're not going to just boom, it's there, you know, you're not going to just, you're going to have to go through pilot and maybe a number of pilot projects.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's what I've been talking to Haley about. I said, I just want to know if it works. Like, I just want to know it's not completely disgusting and that neighborhoods aren't going to complain about it. And I just need to know that it works. So,
Right.
but they've been developing this bigger vision and getting input from lots of places that have pretty robust programs. So, so anyway, so they're working towards a bigger vision, although I think that I completely agree. We need to kind of pilot it and figure out how it works.
So,
And to your point, Lonnie, I think we need to figure out how it works in the context of the new service that everybody will be provided, starting January 1st. So in terms of the pickup. So, yeah.
yes,
So, all right.
I haven't heard about that.
Oh, it's
'Cause
the,
I've been out of the loop, for a little bit here.
sure, it's just the organics pickup that we have to start with 1383 starting in January. So
For residential as
for
well?
residential. Yep. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so everybody that has a single family home or, a business is going to have curbside or business pickup. So, the universe of who needs that service or might participate in a community composting program might shrink to, just multifamily folks or something like that. So, yeah.
So this is really, so the whole composting in the desert is really timely.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I wish we had a little more time, but we don't. It's down the wire. But that's great.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk more about 1383 here in a second. So, let me, I'll just mention the disposable foodware and plastics ordinance. That's still on hold. It was going to go forward on tonight's agenda, but that agenda, as you might have seen, is incredibly long. So I think we'll be there till midnight anyway. But I did talk to Councilmember Coors about it briefly today, and I think there's still interest from council to bring it forward and do something with it. So more to follow on that. It hasn't gone away. It's just a timing thing. So we're just trying to figure out timing. So, all right, and then 1383. So on tonight's council agenda is a presentation on SB 1383. And I'm going to provide an overview of the requirements, and I'm going to highlight mostly the changes that we can expect both on a residential level, a commercial level, and for the city itself, and talk a little bit about timeline and try to kind of emphasize the importance of getting this through and having council be aware of it as soon as it comes before them. So we want to make sure that they are aware and in the loop all along the way so that they are not surprised as we get further down the road here and we have a new franchise agreement and an ordinance and all that kind of stuff. So tonight is kind of the first of many, I think, presentations that we will have for council, and Chris is going to be tuning in for that as well. So Roy.
Great.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. I read the staff report and it was really quite jarring. You've been saying all along that the impact is going to be severe, and it's clear in reading the staff report that it is. And I'd suggest if Lonnie and Rob haven't seen it, that perhaps you can send it to them.
Oh, great.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think it did get some. So, and that's good. And the other thing that we did talk a little bit about, and Chris, I talked a little bit about this to Jeff Coors again today, and I think it sounds like he is going to suggest that we have CalRecycle come and do a short presentation to council at the next meeting, mostly because what we talked about was, I said that I thought it would be helpful for people to hear the requirements from somebody other than us. So because for this these requirements in particular, I feel like we're in a shoot the messenger situation. And this is not coming from us. So I need more people to understand that this is a state requirement and we're just doing what we're being asked to do. So So anyway, so that maybe that'll help streamline things. And then the other thing, Chris, that I was thinking of, and I'm going to mention this tonight when I talk about enforcement. So in addition to kind of figuring out the enforcement process between PSDS and the city, the requirement in SB 1383 is not to necessarily enforce until 2024. Like, we don't have to have an enforcement in place until 2024. However, my feeling about that is that most of the businesses, at least, should already be on board and should already be doing this. And we already have an enforcement component in our current requirements. So I'm not going to abandon those enforcement requirements and then restart again in 2024. So I'm going to treat it, and they can push back on me if they want to do that. But my feeling is we're going to have an enforcement program in place, and we should just go forth and do.
Yeah.
Especially on the business front. The residential front may be a little different story, because it is maybe a little bit more of a learning curve on the residential side in terms of what goes in, what can't go in, and all that kind of stuff. We haven't really started that process yet, but certainly the businesses have gotten the message for years that they need to manage these organics and the recycling properly. So that's going to be my kind of the mode that I'm in moving forward. I don't know if you've, Chris, have had any more conversations about that, or had any other, or heard any other thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that was the thought process. They know that there is that learning curve for residential.
Right.
1826, you're absolutely right. 1826 has been around since 2016, 5 years. They really should have done that already. And now with the ordinance that was supposed to be in place with organics, yes, now commercials covered. But I think that was the thought that they had, was that 1383 gears more towards the residential side of things. And they want to give that learning curve. So I think doing it now is probably a good thing, because it's not like you can't say anything for 2 years and all of a sudden tell everyone now you have to do this,
right,
or you're going to get fined. So I think it's a slow process, but I think it's a good idea to probably get it done.
Yep. Okay.
We're going to go over the survey that you sent out.
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna let me pull that up. Let me open it actually.
I have a lot of concerns about private residents.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Survey. Here it is. All right. So let me go to that. Share screen, share the survey. Right. So in the discussions that we've been having about getting ready for this and kind of rolling it out, so two things came to mind. And so one is that individual residents are going to be in different types of situations with regard to organics. So you're going to have single family homes that generate some amount of yard waste that could easily just throw in some food waste, add it to their green bin, and be fine. But then you're going to have a lot of folks who don't generate a lot of green waste and who are going to end up with a green bin or green cart, and the only thing in there is going to be food waste. And so we were thinking about how we could appropriately size those containers. But then once you start to talk about non-cart options, so like a 5-gallon bucket or whatever it may be, that may be really small scale for people that maybe don't cook as much or don't have any yard waste at all, then you start talking about a more manual collection process that has implications for both the truck type as well as the staffing of those pickups. So it has a lot of implications in terms of providing people with different options for, in particular, food waste collection, but food and green waste in this particular case. So what we thought about doing was trying to do a little survey of, and then the second thing, number two, is that we have this hole in the law that basically says that we don't have to collect food waste from multifamily residential developments, 5 units or more. So they're considered commercial properties, and so they fall into a little bit different category, and most of them don't have individual cart pickup. So it kind of made us think that, what kinds of options might they have, because when we were on that Melody, and Chris, I don't think you were on this, the Melody Ranch neighborhood organization call, which is all condos and multifamily. We got like 3 people that were like, when are we going to get that service? What does that service look like for us? And so we thought maybe we need to do a little survey and find out what people are thinking about food waste and green waste, and figure out, do we have a lot of interest out there? In which case, do we need to think about, providing some service to multifamily, and what would that look like? And then, Haley's idea of the community composting comes in, and maybe we direct people to just community compost if they're in a multifamily, because that's going to be easier for them because they don't have to keep it around. So anyway, so lots of different ideas floating around here, but we did this survey to try to collect some data from people about kind of where they lived, what kind of service they had currently in terms of green waste pickup, and then talk to them a little bit about what in the future, what they might like in terms of food waste collection. So that's what we put together. So I'd love to get, if you've taken a look at it, any feedback that you've got on that survey, and any thoughts you've got on that. So
I have a few.
yes, Roy.
I presume you're referring to 1PS based neighborhoods,
Yes.
because there are a lot of areas that aren't in neighborhoods.
Okay. Good point.
Denise would be the source of information about that, but
Okay.
specifically near where I live, there are several communities that aren't part of a 1PS neighborhood.
Okay. So we'll need to reach out to them as well. And I don't know that this is going to be, not exactly sure if I would like for it to be statistically significant. So I'd certainly love to hear at least something from every neighborhood. But I think it's more important that it gives us some flavor for, is there a lot of interest in this out there? Is there a lot of people that are saying, I am definitely not going to put this in my green bin? That kind of feedback is going to be really helpful just generally. So that's a good point. We'll make sure that we try to get the word out to those other neighborhoods too. What else?
If we can jump around, you've talked about options of having a green cart, putting yard waste in the green carts, and then food waste in the green carts. What really struck me when I read the staff report is the potential impact on the trash and garbage and recycling collection business. Having potentially to add new trucks, different kinds of trucks, having walkers go along with the trucks. And like, I just want to speak from my own case, but I don't have any green waste because my gardener takes it all away.
Mm-hmm.
I generate a very small amount of called garbage every week, probably no more than this much. One of the options in the staff report is a 5-gallon bucket rather than a cart. Well, Chris has heard me complain about this problem many times before, but a 5-gallon bucket would not withstand the wind.
Right.
That just wouldn't work. And I think there would be a lot of resistance to using those things, and a lot of education required as well. But I realized after the composting presentation that, if that infrastructure develops, that may take some of the pressure off PSDS. But, nonetheless, I think it's going to be very difficult to get people in single family homes to comply. And the practical aspect where I live is not being able to put out a container and keep it there until the truck comes.
Right. And, I've been thinking about the fact that we have so many different types of residents here too. So like Chris knows, you know, we've got people with these different kinds of services in terms of estate service and walk-in service and people that aren't here most of the time. And it just makes for a very complicated landscape for implementation.
Yes.
So, but yes, and you throw in the wind and it just, you know, it's a free for all. So, yeah.
Today was a windy day and it happened to be our trash day, and there
Yeah.
was burned plastic blowing down the street.
Right, right. Yeah, it's been really windy lately, just a lot.
Yeah, Patrick's right. For the longest time, Palm Springs is always, the service has always been based on convenience to the customer, not efficiency. And it's always been that way in Palm Springs. So there's all these catered services. With complexes like you live in, Roy, there's been thoughts of maybe doing centralized stuff too. So there's a lot of things on the table.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just something that, the impact is great and the solution is going to be difficult.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So this is kind of an opportunity for a business, a private business, to spring up for like your multifamily park, Roy, just as an example. Or, I'm just thinking, what would private, I'm not ordinarily that much into, private businesses, but this might be something that someone could be pretty creative about and do us all a good turn without costing tremendously, but there would be a cost, but so there is a cost for dealing with our garbage. What do you think about that, Chris?
What do you mean?
Well, like for instance, where there is a residential complex that needed to take care of their basically their kitchen waste, and they don't want to put it in their landscape waste, or they don't have a landscape waste. What do you think about like a private entity coming in and starting a business for those units or those residential areas that don't have, like someone like yourself that would come in or are you planning on, I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? Is PSDS going to do that?
Yeah, we will be doing that. But just like this presentation we just heard for composting, for those complexes who don't have to separate the food waste, but they want to, I think that composting program is probably a very good solution. But having other private business come out here and do that wouldn't stop just there. They would not stop just there.
They'd end up like that you got junk service.
Yeah.
They go everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's another thing that we have to think about, Lonnie, is that, so is there going to be a universe of customers that we need to somehow otherwise serve? And Chris, maybe it's something like, I think the program that Haley's talking about is going to take a while to develop. So we're talking years, I think, for that to really take off to any grand scale. But, do we have a compost collection day, in some neighborhoods? Like, we send a truck through and just, bring it on out to the street, and, Chris comes by and just drives a truck through or lays a cart out for an afternoon or something like that. So those are the kinds of things. If maybe some of the survey results say, yeah, I'm interested, but no, I'm definitely not going to use a cart. If we get that kind of feedback, then maybe we think about some alternative ideas like that. But you're right. I think there's a lot of different nuances and permutations to this that that we can't possibly figure out, I think, in the next 6 months. But you know, that's where the compliance over the next 2 years, I think, comes in, is it gives us an opportunity, a window further on the residential side in particular, to experiment with some of those things and some of those offerings. So, yeah.
There should be options for that, and I have no reason to believe there will not be.
Right.
Model might be what you were talking about with the neighborhood challenge. Isn't that Paula's neighborhood?
It is.
Right.
Yep.
Where, you know, they have, in their case, what is it, the landscaper that collects the recycling and puts it in one place.
Right.
Well, that also happened with the compost, with the organic material.
Exactly. Especially since they're a landscaping company, they're going to have a big truck, I think, with landscape waste in it, and they could put out their 5-gallon pail and have them pick it up along with the yard waste on their yard waste day. So yeah, so that's I'm really hoping, and one of the things I'm going to kind of promote on the 1PS call is to work with us on piloting some of this stuff in the next couple of years. So, you know, really reaching out to neighborhoods and having working with them to understand what their needs are and how to fit those needs. So yeah,
It seems like it'll be relatively easy.
Yeah.
But with the private residents, that's
Right.
a whole new culture.
Right.
Right. It's a whole new world.
Right. Exactly. And so anyway, so I think that, you know, it's not until you start talking about some of these unique issues that you really get a sense of how sweeping this change is potentially. So
That's why the staff report is so good. It goes into the details.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Okay, well, we're gonna take another. Tracy's working on converting this to into a survey tool. So we'll hopefully have that worked out next week, so we can announce it and launch it with that 1PS meeting.
So we shouldn't send this back to you yet, or?
If you mean you want to fill it out and send it back?
Yeah.
You know what? Please do. Go ahead, fill it out and send it back. And if you run into any problems when you try to fill it out, let us know. Okay, cool.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, cool. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right. So the other thing, just generally speaking, on organics and recycling, we're still also trying to enforce the current requirements that we have on organics and recycling. And so we had intended to do that in the month of April. And so hopefully we will get to shift our attention to that as soon as we get through the staff meeting or this council meeting and some other things here. And I'd hopefully get through jury duty next week without much angst. So we'll see how that goes. And so
I bet you don't get called.
I don't know. We'll see. I missed my date last time. I totally missed it. So, so I'm probably on there at the top of their list. So anyway, so we'll see.
Fingers crossed, you get off. You call in on Sunday and they let you off.
Right. Fingers crossed. Yes. Okay. And then let's see. I don't have anything on the capital improvements or outreach or the sustainability scholarship program. We have had a few requests for the sustainability scholarship program. And Tracy, what were the last couple? I think they were recycling related. So one was the batteries, right?
We had the batteries from the Escape Palm Springs business.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Kaiser Grill, they expanded their refuse collection area in the back to accommodate the organics collection. They said that cost them close to $20,000. Right. So our 750 helped.
Right. Exactly, just a little bit. Every little bit helps, right? And then the battery thing is Escape Palm Springs used to use, or was using disposable batteries for all of their flashlights that they use. If you've ever been in one of these things, you're in sort of these dark rooms and you try to make your way out of them following clues. And so they've got flashlights that they give people, and I think radios and walkie-talkies maybe, or something like that. So anyway, so all of that is going to rechargeable, reusable batteries, and also rechargeable equipment. So they've got a couple of things that they had that were less reusable, and so they're going to go to more reusable stuff. So I thought that was a really creative use. So anyway.
And then another one, he hasn't placed his order yet, but it's Billy Blues. He does the makeovers for the ladies.
Oh,
And
right.
he is looking into using organic bags to put the mascara in as different products. And then also his mailers, he wants to go from paper products to compostable products.
Mhm.
So he sent me a couple things, and we're kind of working on it together to make sure, because sometimes people will label something as recyclable, but it's just because you're reusing the bag, but the bag itself is not necessarily made of organic materials. So we're putting our heads together on that.
Cool. Yeah.
That's great.
I love the creativity. So so we're likely to continue that program in some form or fashion in the new fiscal year. So we're trying to get the word out and get people to use up the funds for this year, and then we'll see what we've got left for next year, and probably carry it forward, probably focus mostly on restaurants. So we'll see how that goes. So all right, and then the last thing, again, I'm sad that Rob is not here, is I just wanted to share the signage. And this was in your packets too. So based on the feedback that we got last meeting, I think we landed on these two versions of the signage for the downtown containers. And actually, I think we can use these on the park containers as well. So I was thinking it actually is good that we have two different versions, like a landscape version and a regular version, because those containers that are in the parks are very narrow. So we could use the upright version for those ones, and then we could use the landscape version for the one downtown, which is a little bit bigger unit. So anyway, so that's our plan to move forward with those. So any
Are we done with these signs now? I
I think we're done. I wasn't sure if you were ready to be done or if you had another comment. All right, so yeah, so I think we're done. So we just have to purchase these couple of images, and we're good to go. So we'll produce them, and we're going to make them in a way that we can change them out and update them if we need to, but we'll get them all laminated and so that we can attach them to the bins and see what happens.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Is maintenance going to attach them, or is the trash can diving team going to?
I believe that responsibility may fall to the trash can diving team. So we'll see. I'll check with maintenance on it. So, okay. All right, super. All right, so we'll move forward with that. And I think that is all I have. And I will ask Chris, Liz, do you guys have anything that you wanted to share today?
No, just the numbers, which I'll send to you. Chris is there. I'm sorry, his computer's just acting up. But
Okay.
Just the numbers. I just reran them, I think, after I send them to you.
Is that the compliance numbers?
Compliance numbers.
Are we
but
100%
not
compliant?
almost no. We are a little better. We were, just a tiny bit. With 341 commercial, we're still at about a 15%. Which is good. It hasn't gone down. I wish we should be there.
Right.
But and then for multifamily, it's only about 41 non-compliant. So it's out of the 383. So we're almost there. Yeah. 1826, I was hoping to see a much bigger difference. Not so much. We're still commercial 560 covered, and we're non-compliant 294.
Right, we're still about 50% on that. That's
Yeah.
organics. That's the organics.
And then, yeah, and then for multifamily, it's 389 covered, and we're at 219 non-compliant.
Yeah, if you can send me those numbers, just in case that comes up tonight at the council meeting, I can share where we are currently and let them know that it's a problem. So
Absolutely. We'll send them to you as soon as we're done here. I'll send them over.
cool. Great.
Can you hear me, Patrick?
Oh,
Yes.
yep.
Okay, good. All right. Can't see him, even can hear you. Okay.
Right.
Real quick, if there's something to add, I talked to Frank Orlett over at Burtech to get another update
Yep.
on the facility up at Eden Hill.
Yeah.
As it stands now, that is going to be starting at third quarter of this year to open up.
All right.
And he said something interesting as well, because I kind of asked about compostables and plastics, that kind of stuff. And compostables still is that big question mark. But the small cardboard, little to-go trays that are cardboard,
Yeah.
those are going to be accepted to comply with 1383. So that might be another option for the foodware ordinance that you're looking at as well.
So that is interesting. I wonder if we can get a little more clarity on what that might entail, because is that just like the containers that would hold cups? Like, you've got the 4-cup container and it's paper, or is it like a paper tray that contains a food item?
Paper tray that contains a food item as well. I was trying to get as specific as possible. So I asked that direct question. Yeah, the little small cardboard, it kind of goes in with that paper towel, Kleenex, small chipboard cardboard that would hold food and even pizza boxes.
Right. Okay. All right, cool. Lonnie.
Question for Chris and Liz. You remember a couple of years ago, you had gotten for me the sale price to businesses that would purchase recycle, things that were recyclable, and you could actually follow what actually would make a profit and what would be below zero, basically. You remember that? I can't remember what it's called, but there's a whole listing of the various items that we send thinking that it might be recycled when in fact it maybe is not. But I was just wondering, has there been, it's been a couple of years now, I think, has there been any change in those categories as far as what might be taken? I mean, has there been a bump here or there?
The market is still very depressed. Now, just because something's not worth something doesn't mean it's not recyclable.
I see.
So yeah, the values are down to nothing. For some, CRV values are fine.
Okay.
Plastics 1 and 2 are fine. They still have value, but paper products, they're still very depressed. Plastics, 3, 4, and up to 7 really are worthless. So very difficult to find a home for them. Just depends on the facility. Some facilities will take it, we'll find a home for it, maybe break even on it, but most everything just has no value.
Yeah, wow. And so what about, glass and cans, stuff like that? Same thing, huh?
Yeah, glass rarely has never really had much value, although it is recyclable. Cans, they're boosted by CRV, so is plastics 1 and 2. So their worth, their market value still is at a decent level.
No talk in the industry about changes along those lines, or some possible business opportunities, or?
That's everyone's looking for that for that business opportunity. It's definitely tough with recycling right now because you just can't find an outlet for a lot of this stuff. I can't say that right now the state legislators is looking at plastics reduction or plastics that are the producer responsibility.
And the truth in labeling thing for recycling, I think, is the other thing that's coming through.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
So
And
that's
then
where you may see some big changes.
right.
a question for you, Patrick.
Yep.
Did we ever get any capital improvement information for wastewater treatment plant?
We did not, and it was supposed to go forward to council for discussion, but it never did. And it's something that Marcus has been working on. And I asked for an update of when that's gonna be ready, and they did not give me a date. So I think it's been a little bit put on the back burner, waiting for the new city manager to arrive, so that he could weigh in on that. So I have not heard any updates on that, but I'll get one before our next meeting.
There is a,
When is that arrival? Sorry.
What's that? He arrived Monday.
Okay, good.
there is a discussion on the wastewater treatment plant tonight. It's a rather minor improvement.
Yes.
Handling it with the solids.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, it's a minor maintenance sort of upgrade or something like that.
Mhm.
You know, we've got some money coming to California, I think, and Riverside in particular. I think this is a great opportunity for us to start seeing if we can get some money to develop
Mhm.
some of the things that we're so good at and that we have so much of, like waste.
Mhm. Right. And water, sadly enough. Yes.
People have to start getting creative on this here. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
my 2 bits. That's it.
Yeah.
I have another question for
Yeah.
Chris.
Roy.
Chris, when the brown carts are replaced with gray carts, what's going to happen to all the brown carts?
Well, we don't have to do that all at one time. The regulation states that we can slowly make that change up till 2036. So as the cart bodies end their useful life, that's when we change the cart. And
So-
we may do some sections of the city if we need to. Let's just take, for example, the complex you live in, you Four Seasons, right?
Yes.
If that's, we may take some areas and just do a change all at one time if the car bodies are all starting to die.
Okay, but it won't be all at one time. That's what I was.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not, because it'd be such a waste of carts.
Yes. Well, maybe you can get some gray lead carts for Four Seasons.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll either do that or do labels on there.
No, he said lead.
Oh, lead.
Yeah, there you go. We just need heavier materials, right? Right.
Yeah, they make some shorties. A company makes some shorter, kind of stout, wider containers.
Yeah.
We tried that in Desert Hot Springs because the winds are, 70 miles an hour out there.
Right.
And they worked, but a lot of people didn't like them.
Huh.
We discontinued doing that. So I don't know. Mother Nature's a tough one to battle.
Right.
I keep bringing it up, but it's a practical problem.
Right. Right. Okay. Anything else before we go? All right, then. I think that's it. I will see everybody, talk to everybody in a couple of weeks at our commission meeting.
Well, look forward to seeing you tonight. Good luck.
Yes, I will be on stage tonight.
Hey, Patrick.
Yes.
I forgot. I'm going to be at City Hall. Yes, I'm going. Want me on?
You can be, yes. So what I would suggest you do is you text me, kind of keep an eye on the agenda and text me when you think you're coming.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'll let you in.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, bye guys.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.